Welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Linda and I make content about living and studying in Canada for international students and immigrants. And if you're not new here, welcome back and thank you so much for subscribing to the YouTube channel and just supporting the channel in general. And I hope you guys entered the year you had a very great and positive start to 2021. So in today's video, I am going to be answering one of the most common questions I've seen in the comments, which is how do I find a scholarship to study in Canada? So we're going to be answering that question. What I've decided to do is I will answer it in a 3-part series. So the first video, of course, is this one, and then the second one will be a video where I'm going to be sharing a bit about my experience and how I ended up getting a scholarship to study in Canada. And then the third part of the video is kind of going to be a summary of part 1 and part 2 with a few of considerations to keep in mind when you're applying to study in Canada. Whew, I feel like I'm speaking very fast because I haven't recorded a video in a minute and I'm a bit all over the place, but this is the very first video of the year 2021. I'm excited and I hope if you're new here you will stay and join and subscribe and learn a bit more about life in Canada for international students. So without wasting too much time, we're gonna go straight into the video. First part is going to be a general summary of what to think about when you're trying to find or apply for a scholarship. So the very first thing is, my assumption at this point is you have been accepted into a college or university in Canada. Usually that's the very first step. It's important to be offered admission into a school, and then you can start thinking about funding. Sometimes I get questions from people in the comment section or in my DMs, and they're already asking about funding, but really I think what you need to do first is apply, and then once you've gotten accepted into that program or college or university, then you can apply for the funding and look at what funding options are available in that program or in that college. So that's the very first thing, is get accepted into some sort of program. Number 2 is then you would research your scholarships, and usually you would find those, either the first place to look at would be the finance and fees, I think it's usually what it's called, but basically every college or university will have a website and they will break down the tuition fees for international students specifically, and then there should be a section where they talk about either bursaries or funding or scholarships or loans, or in some schools they'll have a program called a work study program, where basically they pay a certain amount of your tuition and then in return you would work for that money. So you're getting work experience, which is good for your resume in the end, and at the same time the money that you're earning, instead of maybe them paying you, they will then use that to cover some of your tuition or whatever fees you need to complete your studies. So once you've researched and you have figured out which scholarship, which bursary, which loan you think you are able to apply for and you are eligible for, the next thing is then to gather all the documents. So usually when you're looking at these pages, they will break down for you what is needed. So for example, they might say we need your high school transcript, we need the admission letter. Sometimes, in most cases, they'll say if you've been admitted into the program, please also attach that, so we know we're dealing with someone who's already been given admission into that program. So basically gather all the documents. Maybe they'll also ask for your study permit. Honestly, it depends, but I just know there's usually a list of things that you need to send in together with your application for the scholarship. So gather all those documents, and then the next step would then obviously to send it in, apply for that scholarship. Another thing that also usually comes with the scholarship application is sometimes they'll ask you to write in a personal statement, which is basically an essay where you explain, maybe you might explain your financial status and why you think or why you would like to get that scholarship. In other cases, they may say a good example, I don't know specifically, but I do have some friends who studied, not go, but used to study at the University of British Columbia, and I've heard there's some pretty interesting scholarships where they're just looking for a student who is involved on campus. So they might ask, in your high school experience, give us an example where you were part of the community, or you started a community project or a leadership project, and so they'll want you to write a little bit of an essay explaining that and attach it with your scholarship application. And so you'll send it through, and let's hope the admission team receives it and looks through it, and obviously they give you that offer. But in the meantime, what I would also suggest you do is keep checking your emails. I say this because sometimes, I remember when I was applying, sometimes I would miss emails because they were just going into the junk mail of like my account, and so it would take me a while to see it, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, so and so college already responded to me like 5 days ago. So it's just important to keep checking your emails, so you're keeping tabs on like what's happening. Maybe you might apply and then they'll say everything is looking good, but can you just send us one more, they'll maybe ask for something else to support your application. So it's always good to check your emails regularly. I feel like I'm talking so fast, but I'll try and attach this photo on the side and also down in the description box with the notes that I'm going through. I'm also looking that way because I have my laptop right here, so I'm still with you guys. It's just I need to look at the laptop so that I know what I'm talking about. So I also wanted to share with you guys a general structure of how scholarships work in Canada. And just before I begin, obviously, please keep in mind that this is stuff that I've experienced, so this is my own experience, but it's very important that you do your own research because it may be different. You might be from a different country, and so don't just take everything that I say on the YouTube channel and then apply it to your situation, but do your own personal research. So the first thing that I wanted to sort of cover is there is 3 different types of scholarships out there, at least in my experience. So there is a merit-based scholarship, there is bursaries, and then there's also grants. A merit-based scholarship basically is, it's in the name, it's based on some sort of merit. And then a bursary is usually it depends, but it's not usually based on some sort of merit or academics, but I'll get into that in the next section of the video. And then what I wanted to talk about is grants. I've never applied for a grant or gotten a grant for education purposes, but I do believe there are some out there. If you look around, especially like government offices or even just like companies might have grants, and usually a grant is like, it's just a significant amount of money that they'll give you to cover your tuition fees. But one thing that I was thinking about when I was making this video is, Also, if you're looking at the scholarships and the bursary applications and you're like, you know what, this thing is not gonna work for me, like I'm not eligible to apply, what you can do is, for example, let's say you're calculating and you've gotten into this program and the total amount it will cost you is 100,000 Canadian dollars, right? And you're like, well, I could try, and my parents can put money together and we could maybe have 20,000 upfront, right? What you can do is you could set up a GoFundMe account. I've seen a couple of people do this, and sometimes it works, and if it doesn't, you know, at least you'll get some sort of amount to get you started. So I would say also open a GoFundMe account and just write your story and be like, let's say I've been admitted into this program, I really want to go there. It's in Canada, it's gonna cost 100,000, but I have 20,000 upfront that I've been able to raise with my parents or whatever, and I really appreciate your support if you could help me raise the extra 80k. I think most people out there really understand the importance of education, and so people who are able to will donate. So I would say that's something to look into as well. Okay, so as I said before, there is a merit-based scholarship and then there's a bursary, and the difference between them is really, the main difference is a bursary usually means is made for students who have financial needs, so you kind of have to prove your financial need. So what I have here is applicants are usually required to show financial need. For example, they'll ask you for your bank statements. They will also ask you for like an asset evaluation. I don't know if it's really called an asset evaluation, but that's kind of what I did in one of these like scholarship applications, where I could just tell that they were trying to figure out, you know, like, what are your assets, what are your liabilities, are you really poor in that sense, you know what I mean? So they might have like some sort of asset evaluation form that you have to fill in, like they'll say how much do you make, how much do you get taxed, you know. And so for them, they're looking at the numbers to say, yeah, you know what, technically you can't afford this with your current financial status. Excuse me. And the other one I had is like a questionnaire. I've applied to a scholarship where I basically had to answer questions, and honestly, I thought it was weird, but sometimes, you know, some of these schools will send you a questionnaire. So the questions that were in that one were things like, do you have a TV in your house? Do you have a computer? What kind of roofing do you have? What kind of flooring do you have in your house? I'm not sure what that tells you about my financial status, but I had to answer some questions like those in some instances. So really what they're driving at is show us that you have financial need, because, you know, you can't be applying for a bursary and then they're like, show us your bank statements, and next thing there's like $2 million in like your account, like, you know. So that's kind of like the vibe that bursaries will give you, is like, show us for sure that you really can't afford this and you wouldn't be able to attend this school without this bursary. And then merit-based scholarships are a bit different. They're kind of the same thing, but the difference is there's sometimes terms and conditions that you have to meet. So kind of like the bursary, but the difference is it could be very specific. So sometimes there's scholarships for athletes, so it could say, you know, you need to participate into the basketball team or the track team. I'm not really sure how this one works because I've never had a scholarship of that sort, but the one that I have experience with is the academic one. So they might say, we'll pay for everything, but you need to make sure that your GPA is always 3.5 and above, and we'll continue paying for your 4-year program. So those are just the two main differences, is that one is based on like you really need the money, versus the other one is, it's not really that you need the money. So even if you're like rich enough and you can afford to pay for the fees, you could still apply for a merit-based scholarship if if you can meet the terms and conditions that they've set for the scholarship. So another thing to consider when applying for scholarships is to be open-minded. I remember when I was applying like 4 years ago or whenever that was, I applied to McGill University, and I really wanted to go to McGill University. It was like my Harvard, right? And so I applied, but I applied with one specific scholarship, just one. I applied to school and then I applied for one scholarship, and I guess I just truly believed that, you know, I will get the scholarship and everything will be fine. And then unfortunately what happened was I got accepted into McGill University, but in their admission letter they were like, unfortunately you are admitted, but we cannot offer you the scholarship that you applied for. And so they kind of sent me a link with like other scholarships, and they were like, but we can see that you haven't applied to this other scholarship and this other scholarship. And so, you know, I really wish I would have like applied to anything and everything that was available in McGill, so that, you know, by the time they're looking at my application as a whole, they also look at the other options that I had in terms of scholarships. So I would say it's very important to be open-minded and just apply to as many scholarships and bursaries as possible, so that you're not limited to the choices that you have. So how much will the scholarship cover? I kind of get this question a lot. Honestly, I would say it depends. It depends on the scholarship. In some instances you might find, you know, they just give you a small significant amount, and then you can put in the rest. It's kind of similar to the grant thing I was talking about before, but obviously it's always best if you can get a full scholarship, which is what I got to study in Canada, and I'll speak a little bit about that in the next video. But yeah, so they vary. So I'm saying this because I know sometimes people get discouraged because they're like, well, my parents can't afford the money, so maybe I shouldn't be applying for a scholarship. But like if it's merit based and you can apply for it, and even if it's partial, like I'm sure your parents would be like, yeah, sure, if we get like 25% discount or something on your tuition fees, then why not? So I would say apply anyways, because they come in different shapes and forms. And last but not least, I've kind of already touched on this already, but it's very important to be prepared. So make sure you do your research and figure out what that scholarship requires. If they need references, start speaking to your references. If they need transcripts, start making sure you have those ready for from your high school. And just prepare as much as you can so that you're meeting deadlines, and then also stay on top of things by making sure you watch that email. Yeah, I think those are the things that I would say are sort of top of mind in general when it comes to applying for scholarships. And yeah, I hope you guys found this video informative to some extent, and what I'll do in the next video is I will be talking about how I ended up getting a scholarship to study in Canada, and then the last part of the video will just be sort of a wrap up of everything put together. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did and you've watched up until this point, please do not forget to subscribe, like, comment and share, and otherwise I will see you guys on the next video.